So, fun fact about me, I have seen every single episode of America's Next Top Model. There's a lot of episodes. Actually, how many episodes are there? There's 315 episodes. There's 315 episodes. Kind of makes me think of myself a bit differently. Anyways, I think I started watching it when I was like 10 or 11. So good for the developing tween brain. Now I recognize that it was probably a little bit of a hyperfixation of my youth. All of this is to say that I am a self-proclaimed expert of ANTM, and God knows I put in the hours to get there. ANTM, as us locals call it, was the pinnacle of reality competition TV, and in its 15-year runtime, it really cemented itself as a cornerstone of the culture. What culture? The culture. The culture. It had its highs.
Feel that you embrace.
It had its lows. It had a lot of lows. And I think it's time that we look back at the rise and fall, and also second retrospective fall, of America's Next Top Model. A lot of these clips are not great quality. So sorry, it is an old TV show. And even when it was released, we're only working with standard definition, baby. We're only working with standard definition. ANTM is the brainchild of supermodel, actress, talk show host, MLM girl boss, Tyra Banks. Tyra is central to ANTM and understanding ANTM, so it's important to know a little bit about the woman herself, if we are to truly understand the ANTM cinematic universe. Tyra Banks was a highly successful supermodel of the 90s and early aughts. In 1991, at her first runway season at the age of 16, she booked 25 shows for Paris Fashion Week, and over her career, she's walked the runways of major designers like Chanel, Dior, Yves Saint Laurent, Valentino, Oscar de la Renta, the list goes on. She was the first Black woman on the cover of Sports Illustrated Swimsuit Edition and GQ. She was one of the original Victoria's Secret angels, again being the first African-American woman to be an angel, and she was an angel from 1997 to 2005. Tyra was groundbreaking in that she was the first Black American woman to reach supermodel status, the only other at the time being Naomi Campbell from England. Tyra acted on TV and film before establishing a production company called Bankable Productions. And amidst reality shows like American Idol, Big Brother, Survivor, Banks spotted a gap in the TV market for a reality competition about models. Thus, in 2003, America's Next Top Model was born. The first cycle of ANTM is unlike any other. By the way, ANTM has cycles, not seasons, so that's how you separate the fans from the fakes. Tyra had big dreams for a top model, which in the first season, I self-incriminated myself. Wow. Sorry. Tyra had big dreams for top model in the first cycle, which was not matched by the budget. The first cycle is much more grounded in reality and trying to find an actual working model than the later cycles, which were dominated by like spectacles and scandals. The show was on the CW for much of its run, and it was the most watched show on the network between 2007 and 2010, averaging 5 million viewers. When we look at ANTM's evolution over time and how it became less and less grounded in the reality of the fashion industry, it's tough to know whether Tyra truly began with the intention of finding working models and then was corrupted by network executives, or whether she was always driven by ratings, because she was also an executive producer on the show, and she had a lot of creative control and a lot of say over what went on in the show. The show also started employing various gimmicks and format changes to try to shake things up a little. There was a petite cycle, a college cycle, a British invasion cycle. In that cycle, half of the contestants were former Britain and Ireland's Next Top Model contestants. There were also 3 boys and girls cycles. There was a cycle hosted by Rita Ora, but we actually don't talk about that. We don't talk about that one. And then there was also an all-star cycle. They tried to modernize the show in later cycles by introducing social media voting, but they quickly did away with that. The show's ratings steadily declined, and in 2018, after 24 cycles, ANTM catwalked to a close. Each cycle follows a pretty similar formula. The first episode revolves around casting, in which a group of around 24 hopefuls are cut in half to form the final group of contestants. They do interviews with Tyra, Miss J. Alexander, runway coach diva extraordinaire, and Mr. J. Manuel, the creative director of all of ANTM's shoots as far as cycle 18. From these interviews, of course, we get the iconic,
I don't know, I just don't think this is great for me. I don't want to do it. I want to go home. I can't take the pressure of it.
But don't you think any job interview...
The aspiring models also take part in runway and photo shoot challenges before the final 10 to 15 are chosen. They compete for prizes, which are typically a makeup contract, a magazine spread, and a modeling agency contract. Let's try that again. A modeling agency contract. For most of its run, ANTM was sponsored by CoverGirl and 17 magazine, so the contracts were with CoverGirl and the spread was in 17 magazine. The models then move into the model house, which is either in New York City or LA, and this is where the true formula of ANTM begins. In pretty much every episode, there's a lesson in something like runway, makeup, acting, twirling, acrobatics. God knows what else Tyra came up with as the cycles went on.
Haven't you noticed? The suns are shining, the skies are sparkling blue. There's a better day than this.
Then they'll have a challenge where they put their new skills to the test. But the most crucial part of any ANTM episode is the photo shoot. Shoots are typically themed. Fairy tale, star signs, 7 deadly sins, blackface. We'll get into that later. We see the girls struggle or soar, and their photos are judged a panel where the worst photo or worst personality, or again, whatever excuse Tyra employs, is sent home. At the end of the episode is where we get the iconic 11 beautiful girls stand before me, but only 10 will continue in the running to be America's next top model. And the girl whose name I don't call must return to the house, pack their bags, and go home. Tyra's intonations are so specific, and I didn't realize how much they'd burn themselves into my brain until I was writing this. Every single episode of ANTM is virtually the same. I don't even know if I realized that watching it when I was growing up, but I don't know how I watched over 300 episodes. I'm still getting over that. That is insane. So every episode starts with the girls talking about last week's elimination, the fallout, and it would always be like, there's the other girl who's in the bottom 2, and she was like, I really thought I was going to go home. And then all of a sudden, there will be a strong focus on one girl, and she'll be telling details about her home life, potentially a sob story. She'll be saying how much the competition means to her and how much it would change her life to win. And that girl's probably going to go home that episode. Or else she's going to win the entire competition, but most of the time, it will start off with, this would mean so much to me, it would change my life, it would change my children's lives, I could maybe change the world with this money. Half an hour later, she's sent home. Heartless. Absolutely heartless. There's some standard beats of the ANTM cycle, and it usually goes episode 1, casting, episode 2, regular episode, 3, makeovers, and then it'll go along as normal until there's 5 or 6 girls left. Then all of a sudden they're going abroad. They're going to Milan, they're going to Paris, they're going to Tokyo, they're going to South Africa, all of the fashion capitals of the world. And when they're abroad, they have a go-see challenge, which is when they all have to go and meet with designers and pitch themselves and try to get booked. Those are always my favorite because they're always so full of drama, because they're in a foreign city and they have to navigate around the city by themselves. They're are given a map, or they have a driver and they have to go through jam-packed streets, and then be getting close to the end of the time limit, and there's girls running through the streets, they're trying to get through. It's actually riveting. It's actually riveting cinema. The judges value this challenge way more than any others. They don't really care about the other challenges. So if a girl returns late, she's automatically eliminated from the challenge, and they take that seriously, a panel. They do. And so of course there's the iconic clip.
I asked him to meet me over there.
I just want to tell you that some people have war in their countries.
Which has the same energy as
diamond earring came off in the ocean and it's gone. And there's people that are dying.
incredible. The final 3 shoot a commercial for the makeup sponsor, typically CoverGirl, and then the final 2 stomp to the death in order to win the crown. So let's talk about how As ANTM went along, it just became absolutely unhinged and completely detached from any semblance of reality. The photo shoots at the start of the show were grounded in something that Tyra had actually experienced, or, you know, what you might expect from a professional photo shoot. And something fun that I loved in the first cycles was that Tyra would do a photo shoot along with the girls in the same theme, so you'd always like see her picture before it went to panel, and it was never discussed. But one cycle, that was just over. And I kind of missed it, to be honest. As the show evolved, it became less about modeling and fashion and more about drama and degradation of the contestants. They would do crazy challenges, like there would be a loose mention of how it would relate to modeling, but honestly, we all know it's for the drama. Like, let's not pretend here, Tyra. We both know what is going on.
Today you guys are gonna learn about acting! Learn about acting! Acting!
Like, obviously there are some elements of, you know, acting or dancing or whatever that go into modeling, but let's not pretend that writing a rap song is something that's necessary for becoming a supermodel. The runway challenges became not only more dramatic, but downright dangerous. Contestants had to walk blindfolded. They were walking down the sides of buildings, crossing a tightrope, trapped in a hamster ball. They had their hands set on fire. They were walking on treadmills, walking between giant swinging pendulums. Things that would absolutely not happen in the real world of modeling and actually posed threats to their safety. And I'm gonna dive into the kind of safety and ethics of ANTM's treatment of the models in the next section, but there's a weird dichotomy where at times the show seems to take itself so seriously, and they'll be saying things like, this would never fly in the modeling world, you can't do this if you're going to be a model, and then at the same time they have people walking down the sides of buildings. Like, that is something that would never happen in the fashion industry. So it's hard to take the show seriously when the models are judged for like a rap song that they wrote instead of a high fashion photo shoot.
How many people were scared? Me too. I was really, really scared.
Some of that disconnect is fun and camp, but it's pretty clear looking at the show as a whole that it's much more about Tyra than the models. Instead of a sincere attempt to scout and mold a working model, it's a branding vehicle for Tyra Banks. She talks a lot about her background and her modeling experience in a quintessential rags to riches story. She also uses the show to spotlight herself and her ventures outside of modeling. In cycle 2, she records a pop song, Shake Your Body, and dedicates an entire ANTM episode to shooting the music video. She promoted her MLM makeup line, Tyra Beauty, on the show in cycle 21. In cycle 22, there's a Tyra Banks Girl Boss Universe crossover where she records a song, which is the theme song for her MLM makeup company, Tyra Beauty, and has the models record the music video for it. The song is called Bougieful, of course, and up to this point, I wasn't aware that makeup companies had theme songs, but Tyra's always been ahead of the curve, so...
Wow, that was so powerful. Academy Award.
I think one of the peak examples of Tyra's narcissism is that former contestants have revealed that when they would film scenes where Tyra would come out and greet them, they would sometimes have to refilm them if their response wasn't enthusiastic enough. So if they're like, yay, Tyra, they'd be like,
no, you need to scream, you need to lose your mind.
It's so funny to think of the contestants being like, why are we refilming this? And Tyra's like, oh, there's no reason. Well, that's actually assuming that Tyra would talk to them behind the scenes, which all of them have said that once the cameras go off, Tyra goes off. Former contestants talk about how difficult it was to find modeling work after the show wrapped and how there was a big stigma attached to them competing in reality shows, and few former contestants actually made it as models. Takara Jones, Yaya DaCosta, Danielle Evans, Allison Harvard, Isis King, Winnie Harlow, among others. Winnie Harlow actually said that ANTM did nothing for her career and that wasn't how she made her start.
So I really started after the show because that really didn't do anything for my career. Which it doesn't do anything for any model's career, realistically.
Whether or not you agree with that sentiment, it is highly indicative of how the contestants feel about their time on the show. A few also went on to have successful acting careers like Annalie Tipton and Ava Pigford, but a majority of contestants have their modeling careers end with their elimination from ANTM. ANTM had a huge resurgence in 2020 because of the pandemic and also because it got added to streaming services. Part of the resurgence was people looking back at the insane challenges and laughing at how ridiculous they are. But the show also got a lot of attention and renewed criticism for the mistreatment of contestants, the damaging messages of the show surrounding body image, and its clumsy, problematic treatments of issues like race, queerness, disability, etc. So now that I've gone through the rise of ANTM, it's time to talk about its fall and all of the controversies and criticism it has been embroiled in. ANTM, like a lot of reality shows, toes the line between representation and exploitation. Tyra and others involved with the show always say that it was the aim of the show to kind of push the boundaries and expand the fashion industry's definition of beautiful.
So it was our mission to be diverse and to push back when we were told that we couldn't be as diverse.
But while touting inclusion and championing this aim, the show actually perpetuates and upholds a lot of rigid beauty standards that it claims to challenge.
You are dumb, unattractive, overweight, unworthy, untalented.
You could argue that Tyra is trying to prepare models for the real world of the fashion industry, but as we just discussed, Tyra was not actually concerned with trying to find working models. It often feels like it is undercutting its own message. It promotes diversity and a celebration of people of all different backgrounds, but it fails to accommodate disabled contestants and it treats the women of color absolutely horribly. And when issues arise from those very diverse backgrounds, whether it be racism or transphobia or bullying, etc., the contestants are encouraged to push through and not let adversity stop them. To be fair, considering the landscape of TV that ANTM was airing in, they actually were a lot more progressive and diverse than any other show. They featured a model with vitiligo, Winnie Harlow, a model with alopecia, Gina Turner, and a transgender model, Isis King. So I want to look at the diverse pool of contestants and how they were actually treated. There was a weird moment that resurfaced in 2020 in Cycle 5 where Kim, a lesbian contestant, is talking about gay pride and Tyra chastises her overtness.
I want to be out like I'm gay and I'm really proud of it.
I think this sort of thing of being proud, like I'm black and proud, you know what I mean? But I'm not like walking on the red carpet, I'm black.
Yeah, I'm proud.
You know what I'm saying?
Gina talked about her alopecia in an interview with ID and revealed how production misled and manipulated her. Alopecia is an autoimmune condition where you lose the hair on your body. So Gina entered the competition wearing a wig, and she said, when it came to getting our show makeovers, I was originally told I was getting a pixie cut, which they made for me. But ultimately, their plan was to razor my entire head. So I went into the salon with a different idea than one I ended up leaving with. I wasn't upset. I knew I could do it. I was upset that they had lied in order to make that happen when it was something so close to my heart. I don't think I should have been manipulated to give them the outcome of having an alopecian in the show who accepts their defect. It's a beautiful story, don't get me wrong, but the process of getting there could have been achieved in a less malicious way. Gina also spoke about how she had appeared in Playboy magazine prior to getting on the show, and she said that Tyra just completely denigrated and humiliated her for that.
She crossed her arms. Tyra Banks crossed her arms and looked at me and said, I don't like that. You sound like a f***ing prostitute. And turns and looks this way and would not make eye contact with me the entire time. And I had 4 judges at that point, 4 different people yelling different slandering things back to me, basically telling me that I sounded slutty or I sounded whorish or that I was wrong. The only person that didn't bash me was Ashley Graham. Bawling, trying to defend myself, Tyra uncrossed her arms and goes, "Now tell me about alopecia." And that's where you guys see my interview start.
That's not the only time that ANTM partakes in this kind of rhetoric. They often shame strippers and sex workers. Exotic dancing and stripping is always brought up if it's a part of a contestant's past. And if a model ever alludes to a similarity between that job and modeling, you can see Tyra go ice cold and basically be like, we are not the same. Angeli Preston was the runner-up of Cycle 14, and she spoke about how she found it extremely difficult to book modeling jobs after the show wrapped because of the stigma attached to reality TV competitions.
I couldn't book work after Cycle 14 because of how I was portrayed. People viewed me as, oh, she's ghetto, oh, she's a bitch, oh, we can't work with her, she's impossible to work with.
She turned to escorting for money, and her pimp took her around the country and was abusive towards her. The winner of Cycle 14, Krista White, reached out to Tyra Banks and the ANTM production asking if they could try to help Angeli in some way, which they didn't. And Angeli ended up getting out of the situation herself. But then for Cycle 17, the All-Star season, Angeli was contacted by production and asked if she would return. She spoke to an executive producer about her escorting before the shooting began, and then she ended up winning the cycle. But a few weeks after she won, she was contacted by production and told that she was having her title stripped because they found out about her escorting.
I won Cycle 17.
And what happened after that?
They took everything from me. My title, the winnings, they decrowned me.
It was a stupid decision that I made, and then it came back to bite me with them decrowning me, and it was awful because it kind of made me feel shameful. It made me feel like that I should be ashamed of this thing that I did, because now look, I'm being punished for it, when realistically I only escorted for 3 weeks.
Which, again, to be clear, they had already known about before shooting. So she was lied to and manipulated, and she sued Tyra Banks and Ken Mock, who is the other major executive producer, for $3 million. She also was talking about the horrific filming conditions that the models were put through.
There were times when we didn't get fed. We had to film straight through 15, 18 hours without eating. So we're starving. So then that plays on your mental attitude, because it's almost like they want us to go in there angry so they can have drama. So, okay, let's starve them. Let's withhold food. Let's withhold water, because you know how you get when you're hungry.
She thought that other models might join her to form a class action lawsuit, but when she realized that she'd be facing the behemoths of the ANTM legal team alone, she dropped the case. ANTM was hailed for its inclusion of Isis King, a transgender model, and it even won a GLAAD award. But Isis's appearances on Top Model aren't wholly positive. Isis actually worked as a background extra on a shoot in Cycle 10, where, side note, it was a homeless photo shoot. Isis was actually homeless at the time, and I don't know if they specifically contacted homeless youth to model, or if that was a coincidence, but crazy concept. But during and after the shoot, Isis was spotted by production, and so she was asked to come back to audition for Cycle 11. Cycle 11 was aired in 2008, and it was quite radical for a trans person to be featured prominently in the media. At the time, trans people were rarely seen on screen, and there wasn't the same awareness or education or empathy that exists around transness today. And you can see the ignorance and hostility in the way that Isis is treated by the production and by the other contestants. Other contestants are horrendously transphobic, misgendering Isis, calling her a he, she, a drag queen, saying that a drag queen will never win America's Next Top Model. They ask her invasive questions about anatomy. They refuse to get in the pool when she's in it. Not all of the contestants were like this, but the fact that there were any is really sad to watch. And Isis was also manipulated by the production. She told producers that she didn't want to inject hormones on camera, and they assured her that they would have the on-set medic do it. But then when the filming began, the production rang the house phone and told Isis that she would have to do it herself. And if she needed any help, she had to ask one of the other girls to do it. And so she ended up getting filmed injecting her hormones. So they lied and exploited her to make a spectacle of her transness. She's since become a successful model, and talking about her experience on ANTM with an interview for ID, she says, I didn't think it would turn into a big spectacle. Like when I got outed and all the girls asked me questions, I transitioned in ballroom scenes where everybody was LGBT, and even at my job, people knew and were respectful. So being surrounded by all these girls looking at you like a caged animal and asking you about your genitals was a really shocking experience. It was intense. Were the judges sensitive enough? The interview asks. They made me feel like I was wanted. I didn't go there for special privilege. I wanted to feel like every other girl, and that's how they made me feel. I'm glad that Isis felt valued by the judges, but it's so hypocritical of ANTM production to platform a transgender model and tout inclusion when the true motivation isn't positive representation, but making her otherness a point of drama and completely disrespecting her. The epitome of the show's exploitative and at times empty representation is shown in its treatment of disabled contestants. And there are some positives in that they show disabled contestants talking about their disabilities, their experiences, their struggles, their strengths. It can be disheartening sometimes to watch the cycles featuring disabled contestants because of the way that the other contestants treat them. Amanda in cycle 3 was legally blind. She had very bad vision during the day, but at night she was virtually blind. And other girls accused her of exaggerating her condition for pity or for an advantage of some sort and mocked her behind her back.
How about that, man? And I don't know how she talking about she blind when she said she was over there doing this and doing this, and it looked like you weren't worried about not seeing to me.
But then in the room, she's like, is this a Paul? Heather of cycle 9. Heather, my love. She had ADHD and Asperger's, now known as autism spectrum disorder. She talked about it openly from her casting and throughout the competition. And don't get me wrong, a lot of the contestants were lovely, but she was repeatedly called weird and awkward, and one contestant, Bianca, said Heather was getting a pity party and rolled her eyes at her disability.
I think everyone in the house babies Heather, and I treat every girl in the house the same, and I refuse to be the girl who treats her differently because she has a disability of some sort.
The mistreatment of them extends beyond the contestants, but to the production itself. Past contestants have shared how ANTM failed to accommodate their disability. Amanda, for example, walked on a runway in a club with low lighting. She asked production if she could look at the runway before they walked so she could see how many steps there were, what the layout was, etc. And she was very stressed about not being able to see anything. But production didn't let her see the runway, and in an interview with Oliver Twixt, she said that she wasn't even allowed to go to the bathroom beforehand and that she was kept separate from the other contestants. Niall DeMarco of Cycle 22 was deaf, and he talked about how isolating it was in the house, not having anyone to speak his native language ASL with.
In this competition, I do feel more disabled, you know? I'm the one person who hasn't been able to use my native language, American Sign Language, and I do feel lonely in this competition.
He had to rely on lip reading and typing into a phone to communicate much of the time. One photo shoot of that cycle took place in pitch dark, with contestants standing on a platform and posing for a split second when the camera flash went off. Other contestants were counted in verbally, but for Niall they tried flashing a flashlight to count him in, which didn't work. So the creative director, Yusai, had to bang on the platform to try to signal him, and you can see Niall getting increasingly frustrated at being able to time his shots correctly. It's baffling in the first place that they conceived of a shoot that would deprive a deaf person of yet another sense, but the fact that they failed to even properly think through how they were going to accommodate him shows a complete disregard for him. And in that week, he was even in the bottom 2 because his photo was bad. Like, I don't understand how they were trying to judge him against the other contestants when he was literally deaf and blind for that photo shoot. So it's important to recognize that ANTM was groundbreaking in its diversity, but despite devoting a lot of attention to the importance of representation, Tyra and Top Model production failed to actually accommodate the needs of their contestants. Instead, they exploited their contestants for entertainment, and the facade of caring for people of all different backgrounds quickly dissipates when the curtain is pulled back. As one might expect from a show about modeling and the fashion industry, ANTM had a lot of messed up representation and messaging surrounding body image, weight, and eating disorders. I also want to point out that some of the contestants were teenagers at the time of filming, and a lot of them were in their early 20s. And the target demographic and the most popular demographic of ANTM was women between the age of 18 and 35. Young women and teenage girls are particularly susceptible to getting eating disorders, and I can only imagine the amount of damage that ANTM has caused in the psyche of thousands of people. The show pretends, at times, to care about eating disorders while also perpetuating the images and standards of beauty that spark body image issues that can result in eating disorders. For example, one girl wasn't selected as part of the final dozen because Tyra said that she looked unhealthily thin and that she didn't want to promote the wrong image.
I do feel like you are too thin. Of course, people know that fashion models are slender, but your body, I think, does send a little negative image to women.
But she wasn't that different from a lot of other thin contestants who were featured very prominently on the show. So it seems like this one contestant was used as a way to kind of dodge accountability and to act as if they cared about eating disorders, which they did not. There's always a lot of discussion about weight in ANTM. Whether or not a contestant has lost or gained weight becomes an issue not only for the contestant, but it's something that the judges will also constantly bring up.
You seem to be disappearing slightly in front of us. You seem to have lost quite a bit of weight.
People have said that, and
Yeah.
and I haven't been trying to, but people keep mentioning it.
We all think so.
You have to actually be the size to be a plus-size model.
Girls monitor each other's bodies, gossiping and talking about the other girls' eating habits and bodies. People speculate about who might have an eating disorder, but no real steps are taken to educate viewers on the dangers of eating disorders. And Tyra and production don't do anything to help contestants who potentially have eating disorders. Instead, these issues are made into storylines about the contestants' body image, their weight, their relation to food, and instead of counteracting this message and trying to cultivate a culture of healthy body image and healthy relationships with food, they just let this play out on TV.
I am a little. I should probably get some tea.
Should just go to bed?
No.
Exactly. Okay, why did that face, Camille?
Ask her when she comes back.
Why?
Let's go to the bathroom. Huh?
You think always disappear to the bathroom at dinner?
What? No. She, disappears and...
After every meal.
No, not after every meal. Just she goes to the bathroom a lot.
Well, the eating disorder thing is very sensitive to me. I've never experienced it personally, but I know a lot of
I
people.
had a friend that...
So if you guys just keep an eye on that, if you can watch it for me.
In cycle 3, Cassie appears to have an eating disorder and other contestants make jokes about it. She repeatedly talks about her desire to be thinner and ultimately reveals that she has bulimia. When she visits a designer, he measures her hips and says that they're too big, leaving her humiliated. Despite her own revelation and other contestants noticing her eating disorder, she's still allowed to compete for several more episodes, and the production make her illness a point of entertainment rather than bringing awareness to eating disorders or helping Cassie. And this is a pattern throughout ANTM. Several girls are either revealed to have or speculated to have eating disorders, and if it's brought to Tyra's attention, she acts like it's something that she cares about, but she never actually talks to the contestants about it or steps in to try to help their mental health or safety. Instead, they're allowed to potentially continue harming themselves with the aim of staying in the competition. And so allowing these girls to continue sends a message that an eating disorder could be a minor inconvenience in the pursuit of success and beauty rather than something that is life-altering and potentially life-threatening. As well as focusing contestants that lose weight, they also shame contestants who gain weight over the course of the cycle. Kenya of Cycle 4 is said to have gained weight over the filming, something that she points out herself. It's repeatedly noted by the judges, and it seems like they pick her role in photo shoots to exasperate the storyline. For the 7 Deadly Sins shoot, she's assigned gluttony and is made to pose in a coffin full of donuts and bacon. In a later shoot, each girl dresses as an animal, and Kenya is styled as an elephant.
So I picked an animal that I think represents each and all of you. You get to be the elephant.
Other girls are styled as a deer, a cheetah, a zebra, a giraffe, all lithe, lean, graceful animals that completely contrast Kenya's assignment. And at panel, she's criticized for having her stomach out.
This photo is really beautiful, Kenya, but I hate to say it, they had to do a lot of body work on you and retouching.
For at home, pretty much I try to, eat right. And we come here, my metabolism, everything is thrown off.
Stop! If you're sporting a gut, then you turn to the side and disguise it.
There's one scene where all the girls are eating, and Kenya goes up to get yogurt, and another contestant, Brittany, shames her for eating and says that she's constantly stuffing her face and, no wonder she's gained weight, stuff like this. And this messaging is coming from all sides, and this is just one example that I can pick out from the show. From looking at all the models, it's clear that there's almost no variation in body size, with almost all of the contestants being very tall and thin. Tyra has done a short cycle where all of the contestants are 5'7" or under, despite the lack of industry demand for short models. But even with the plus size sector of fashion modeling growing over the past decade, she never once did a plus size cycle. Over the 24 cycles that aired, there's only ever one plus size winner, Whitney of Cycle 10. Often cycles didn't even include a single plus size contestant, and if they were included, they tended to be the only plus size model of the cycle. ANTM's plus size contestants are repeatedly told they need to look thinner, and Janice Dickinson in particular would tear these women apart.
This is a little weak on one side of the picture.
A little weak? The car looks better than she does. If the body could just slim down 150 pounds, that would be good.
Then she'd be 30 pounds.
That would be better.
She's huge, but she's so beautiful. She's a mammoth, of course.
In Cycle 3, Takara Jones, the only plus-size model that cycle, is treated horribly by the wardrobe director at the photo shoot. She's fat-shamed and told it's impossible to get a rack of size 14 clothes.
Do you think that I'm going to be able to get a rack like this loaded with clothes in your size?
You can't find something in my size, so I'm supposed to feel bad because
you're taking everything as a negative. I don't think that you realize how this whole modeling thing works.
Which obviously humiliates and upsets Takara. Takara was eventually eliminated because the judges thought she'd lost her bubbly personality. And it's so ironic and cruel that the show subjects these women to endless criticism and cruelty and shame, and then they turn around and criticize them for not being smiley and bubbly. Nevertheless, Takara was a fan favorite, and she went on to become a successful working model. Even if Tyra speaks back against the judges when they say things like there'll never be a plus size successful working model, or that plus size women need to lose weight.
I waste her time and tell her that she could be the only girl that could ever win America's Next Top Model that's a plus size.
Yep. You're the first plus size girl that I could say could make it.
It's fine to have a stance, but for you to say one thing and then say something the next, stick with it.
I give up. I
just see a lot of discrimination.
She doesn't actually do anything to challenge their ideas, so her message of inclusion becomes redundant. There's also one photo shoot where the contestants do a beauty shot, which is a close-up shot with typically little to no makeup. And at the panel, the unretouched versus the retouched photo is shown. The reactions to the unretouched photos are exaggerated and cruel. These pictures are just what people look like, and it's just a face, and it's crazy that they're trying to send this message that you need to look absolutely perfect with no makeup or no retouching, especially when we all know that any professional photo will have a lot of both of those things. Again, instead of using the shoot to highlight unrealistic beauty standards, it does the complete opposite by upholding this perfect ideal. I can only imagine the amount of people who saw all of these things and how damaging it was to their perception of their bodies, their relationship to food, their image of beauty. Again, Tyra has stated time and time again that the aim of ANTM is to expand the industry definition of beauty. But then at the same time, upholding those exact same standards of beauty. And you can't claim to challenge something while perpetuating those ideals. Top Model could have been a place to showcase the diversity of beauty and prove that models don't have to fit the narrow definition of beauty that's prescribed to them. And it did do that at times, but it was so inconsistent in its messaging that sometimes that positivity gets lost in the sea of judgment, criticism, and reinforcement of narrow beauty standards. Recently, there's been a lot more conversations about the treatment of reality TV contestants, the psychological toll of sudden fame, and the lack of preparation and aftercare that surrounds reality competitions. This has really come to the fore in relation to Love Island, but it's equally true of ANTM. It's easy to watch contestants break down, cry, throw tantrums, and have fights, and position it in your head as entertainment, separating it from the very real human roots. But when we look at how these people were treated, it raises a lot of concerns around the ethics and exploitation of ANTM. Of course, when you have a dozen girls living together, a lot with strong personalities, fights are bound to break out, whether it's about who ate another girl's granola bars or who got the key to unlock Nelson Mandela's cell. The show is truly of another world. Tensions run high. The producers intentionally manipulate the contestants in order to get as much sadness, anger, emotion from them as possible. This isn't unusual in reality TV. There's often producer manipulation to get drama, but the levels that ANTM goes to is completely unethical. A expose came out where a former contestant described ANTM as psychological warfare. The contestants work 20 plus hours a day. They sometimes go 12 hours with no food and no breaks. They're forced to stand around and wait for 9 hours at the panel shoots. They get very little sleep. They have no contact with the outside world except 5-minute phone calls with their loved ones. They're filmed constantly, and when the cameras are off, they're not allowed to talk to each other. And they were only given $40 a day, which was to be used for their groceries. There's times when we see the sheer physical toll of the show when contestants collapse because of exhaustion, hunger, dehydration. If a contestant gets sick, it didn't matter how ill, they were never given an exemption, and they were expected to still go to photo shoots and panel. Adrian Curry from Cycle 1 and Daniel Evans from Cycle 6 both said that they left hospitals against doctors' advice because they knew that they would be eliminated if they didn't show up. The show partakes in a lot of mind games and psychological manipulation. Lisa D'Amato, who appeared in Cycle 5 and won the All-Star Cycle, said that information that she shared in her psychological evaluation about abuse that she had suffered was used against her in producer interviews. She was trying to stay positive at the end of a long day, and the producers goaded her into extreme emotional reactions. The interviewer brought that up. Is that the way you felt when your mom would tell you to kill yourself? Is that why this is affecting you so badly? D'Amato said. They don't stop. It just keeps going and going. The show exploits the contestants' traumas but don't actually care about their well-being. Kaylin in Cycle 4 is forced to do a shoot in a grave days after discovering her childhood friend died. And in the same cycle, during a shoot in South Africa with male models, Kenya speaks up about how a male model groped her and started saying sexually explicit things to her, but she's told to move on.
Man, the thing is that this male model, Bertini, he was flirting with me, he was grinding on me. I felt like he really crossed the line.
There has to be a way that you can handle it. You know, you have to be able to be in control.
Like with your feminine wiles, like, boy, you best to back up before I knock you upside the head. But you do it in a fun way where he knows to back the heck up, but it doesn't really put static in the air because then it makes you uncomfortable.
In Cycle 15, Kayla opens up about how she was SA'd as a child and is afraid of men, but she's still forced to kiss a man at a commercial shoot. A biracial model, Jada, is similarly forced to kiss a male model for a commercial, even after he tells her that he doesn't like black women. And at panel, she's told to get over it.
Tell me that this is the guy that said that he didn't want to kiss a black girl?
He doesn't like black girls.
Oh. That guy said that?
He told me that to me the night before, and I feel like he's crawling in his skin just to kiss me.
Bottom line is you've got to take control. It's not about him. He's just an extra.
That should not have stopped her from doing the job that she was sent there to do.
They also purposefully cast people who are homophobic, transphobic, racist, etc., in order to create conflict. I mentioned this in relation to ISIS's experience, but minority contestants are often subject to microaggressions and bigotry that easily could have been avoided or eradicated.
It was like 95% black girls. It was all black girls. Really? I didn't realize it was gonna be like that. Like, whenever I went, I was like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, what's your point, though?
Like, there's a lot of black girls.
I have my opinion, and I try to stay to it.
I am the most uber conservative, Republican, hardcore Baptist you can ever imagine in your whole life. I don't like gay people. I don't like Muslims. I don't like abortions. I don't like anything liberal. But other than that, I really like to get along with people.
They'll purposefully cast a racist contestant, but then also feature women of color in the same cycle, knowing that it will likely present conflict. And thousands of girls applied to be on Top Model, like thousands. They easily could have weeded out people who were openly bigoted, but chose to include them in order to create drama. Tyra speaks about empowering women with the show. Then why not make ANTM a safe space for everyone? Why not make it a safe space for people that have to deal with ignorance and hatred in their day-to-day lives? All the contestants have to live in a house together, so I can only imagine the weight of having to live with someone who you know like has this bias and potentially hatred against you. There's so much drama and exploitation on the show anyways, and it's just another layer of cruelty laid onto everything else. Dealing with harassment, racism, manipulation, etc. shouldn't be something that the contestants have to deal with. In an industry that is notoriously cruel to women, especially women of color, ANTM had an opportunity to speak out against mistreatment and abuse and set a good example, but instead it brushed everything off with a shrug and that's how it is in the fashion industry. Like I mentioned before, the contestants participated in dangerous and potentially life-threatening challenges. One photo shoot had them dangling high in the air with no net, and they also walked down the side of a building. If the harnesses had malfunctioned in either of these activities, it would have resulted in serious injury and potentially death. At one panel, they did a challenge walking in 12-inch heels, during which Danielle sprained her ankle. They did a runway on wobbly planks, where one contestant, Eugenia Washington, fell and cracked her knee, and she says that she still has scars to this day. In Cycle 7, the girls did a shoot in a freezing pool with Tyra telling them to push through the cold for a good shot.
Carrie D, you're from Fargo, come on!
Carrie D, English, started convulsing and developing hypothermia, and while she was being treated by on-set medics, Tyra and Jay chastised her for not speaking up.
You have to listen to your body and you have to tell us, okay? Okay. Because all we know is go, 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 but you have to tell us no.
They were like, it's your responsibility to tell us when you're developing hypothermia. Just don't put these models who have no body fat on them, first of all, to insulate themselves, don't put them in a freezing pool. I'm sure that that could have been something that could easily have been controlled. It's insane, the lack of care and the cruelty that went into this show. It actually makes me angry.
Okay.
Good morning, Mr. J. Miss J.
What is it, T?
Here's your mission, if you choose to accept it. In your hands are 12 dossiers of 12 busted-up models. I need you to transform these wannabes into high-fashion, top, fierce, femme, Italian models.
The makeover episode was something that would make or break the models, not in terms of their performance in their competition, but in terms of their spirit, in terms of their emotional well-being. And the makeover episodes are so entertaining to watch. It's so fun to watch a girl crying about her hair, but it's also, looking back, so cruel. And some of the makeovers are genuinely physically torturous for the contestants. Sometimes it definitely seemed like models were given a dramatic transformation in order to provoke a strong reaction. Like, if you ever saw a girl saying,
I love my long hair, I really hope I get to keep my long hair,
she's probably getting a pixie cut. She's probably getting it completely chopped off. And maybe some of it is to make her look more like a model, but most of it is just so that we can watch her cry. There's one contestant, Cassandra, who had all her hair chopped off, and then she refused to have 1 more inch chopped off because it wasn't quite what Tyra wanted, and so she was sent home because she didn't want to get her hair cut more. Which I understand. People are dismissive and saying it was only 1 more inch of hair when she had gone from waist length to pixie cut, but I also understand. That could have been the final straw, you know. that could have been it for her. Some contestants would go from dark brown to bleach blonde in one session. Normally, these kinds of changes in the real world would be across several different sessions. If you've ever had your hair bleached, you'll know how hard it is on your scalp, how it burns and it itches and it really dries out the skin on your scalp. Michelle of Cycle 4 had open sores on her scalp after her makeover where she went bleach blonde. Brittany of Cycle 8 developed welts on her head because of her weave. There was one brutal moment in Cycle 8 where JL sat for 8 or 9 hours getting a weave, and then at the end of it, the judges decided, we don't like it, we're gonna take it out. So she had to sit the same day for hours as they took it all out of her head. It was also always crazy seeing Tyra put weaves on all these white women. It was always evident that no one told them how to take care of their hair. There was no mention of like bonnets or head wraps for the girls with the weaves, and then the other girls, especially the ones who would go bleach blonde, they would never like re-dye the roots, so you just see the roots grow out over the cycle. And also purple shampoo was just not a thing, so you just see the blonde hair go super brassy over the weeks, and overall all of their hair would just get worse and worse and worse. And also, like, I don't know if this was a thing in relation to their well-being, because I actually didn't go back and rewatch this episode, but I remember there was one cycle where a guy got a beard weave, like he had just a thing stuck onto his face. First of all, it looked so bad, but also I can only imagine that that was probably really uncomfortable. There are also racial dynamics to unpack here in relation to the makeovers. As a whole, Black contestants in particular were horribly treated at makeovers and otherwise, which brings me to my next section. There was a clear racial bias in ANTM, and the makeovers were the clearest example of this. A lot of the Black contestants get straight weaves put in, and it's extremely rare that Tyra lets a girl wear their hair natural or puts them in braids. Obviously, I'm not a Black woman, but from what I understand, hair has an extreme cultural and personal significance to Black people, especially Black women. So the makeovers are like all the more impactful and excruciating for the Black women on the show. Susanna Walker writes, African-American hair has historically symbolized and continues to reflect struggles over race and gender in the United States. This has been demonstrated in news stories about Black women being fired from their jobs, or girls being sent home from school for wearing braids, dreadlocks, or other hairstyles deemed extreme by employers and principals. Even if a Black woman enters the competition with her natural hair, her hair will quickly be covered by a straight weave, or it'll be shaved off completely. And Tyra does this in the name of making the models more model-esque or universal. And she sends the message that to be a marketable model is to strip oneself of aspects of Blackness. As well as that, it was clear from contestants' experiences that no thought or care or effort was putting into accommodating textured hair. Ebony of Cycle 1 entered the competition with short natural hair, and her makeover was to shave it off. She revealed in interviews after the show that the stylists couldn't cut her hair properly. They didn't even wash the gel out of it before they started trying to cut it.
The people did not have the correct clippers. Everybody basically sat and they didn't know what to do.
Should we leave a little tough?
I didn't even like the way the woman was cutting my hair and the way they were having conversation in front of me.
Should we write her name?
Yeah.
It is uneven.
Yeah.
They must have shaving her head that bad.
It is very upsetting to an African-American woman to go into a salon and the person to do her hair incorrectly. It is very inappropriate. It doesn't make any sense to me.
After they left the salon, she ended up buying a razor and shaving it herself. Ebony also said that a Black stylist had to be called in order to fix numerous other makeovers on women of color before they left the salon. My camera just died, but I think this is where we were. Amina of Cycle 12 said that the same thing happened in her cycle, and that Amina and Tiana were sent to Harlem to have their hair fixed off camera after their makeover. Amina's makeover included relaxing her hair and getting getting a weave, and she told stylists that she was allergic to relaxers. But without Tyra present, the stylist couldn't or wouldn't disobey the orders that Tyra gave. Amina said that she felt her scalp burning during the process, and after she was eliminated and took out her extensions, she found a 2-inch bald spot on her scalp that took 3 years to grow back. Like I talked about with the disabled contestants, there's a complete lack of thought and care put into thinking about how they're going to accommodate the various contestants, and in this case, it was the Black women. These are issues that could very easily have been avoided or overcome, and it's crazy that things like having to call in Black stylists to the set happened more than once. Like, you think that that would be something that they might consider, but you would also think that maybe they would listen to a contestant when they said that they were allergic to relaxers, but maybe that was asking too much. The makeovers were a part of making the models more model-esque and kind of universally marketable, and as I said before, a lot of this involved invoking white standards of beauty and imposing them on the models. And there are 2 quotes that I think are helpful in understanding ANTM's attitude towards race and beauty. Mary Thompson writes, "The model femininity sought by the ANTM judges is defined by contestants whose look is a blank palette or androgynous, descriptors that signal unmarked whiteness, while non-white women are most often marked as exotic or eliminated for being too ethnic." In a study of various ethnic Barbies, Anne Ducille writes, "In today's world, race and ethnicity have fallen into the category of precious ready-to-wear difference. To be profitable, racial and cultural diversity, global heterogeneity, must be reducible to such common, reproducible denominators as color and costume." Crafting ethnicity and race as something marketable and depoliticizing it is an interesting ideological move, considering that Tyra Banks herself is Black, and she often spoke about her experience as a Black woman in the fashion industry. But there's little conversation in ANTM about how a contestant's race impacts their life and impacts their experience on the show. The conversations about race in ANTM are instead positioned as whether or not a contestant embraces their ethnicity. Identity is flattened to be something that is solely visible, and like the Barbie dolls, the models are encouraged to turn their ethnicity into a marketing tool. ANTM engages in a lot of colorism, where dark-skinned contestants are repeatedly denigrated and encouraged to become more universal, while mixed-race and light-skinned contestants are held up as valuable because of their ambiguity, their ability to adapt, and their ability to pass as different races. Much like every other aspect of the show, there's so much mixed messaging, where on one hand, Tyra encourages the contestants to own their ethnicity, and she praises Mercedes in Cycle 2 for wearing a flower in her hair as an expression of her Latina heritage. But then she also criticizes other contestants for being too proud of their heritage. Yaya DaCosta was criticized for trying too hard to prove her Africanness, and Tyra suggests that she show Black pride in more subtle ways.
Why did you choose the cowboy hat?
It's more on the simple side compared to the other hats, so that I can go crazy with accessories and express myself without being cliche.
Yeah, I think you look beautiful. I think everyone probably pegged you as going for the typical African hat.
You're, I feel half African, half cowgirl. Looks like you're about to ride a giraffe. I think, I'm not feeling it.
You have this intensity to prove your sort of Africanness, and I think that sometimes it's overbearing. It's just too much. It's sort of a layer on top of a layer.
In response to trying to prove myself as an African, that's just where I come from. It's very natural to me. And I did not choose that hat for the very specific reason that it's very cliche. The fabric that it's made from is very artificial, very cheap, fake kente.
Yeah.
I didn't have the time. I know I'm running on.
There's a different way of explaining yourself and being defensive, and you're being very defensive, and it's not attractive.
Just because we had to talk about, Afrocentricity before, and it's kind of misunderstood.
I'm all about, expressing yourself and your culture, but it's still done in a fashion way. You want your outfit to be, look at me. And this outfit is, look over there.
During her makeover, Yaya has her braids taken out because Tyra says it will make her more versatile.
Yeah, I love the fact that you keep your hair natural. It shows the pride that you have as a Black woman. But I am gonna take your braids out to make you more versatile.
In Cycle 2, Camille says that she wears the colors of Jamaica to express her heritage, but Tyra tells her
my parents are from Jamaica, West Indies. My personal style is normally just wearing like the colors of the flag from the country that I'm from.
Red is for the blood that was shed, yellow is for the sunshine, and green is for the land.
I think you're probably thinking about the colors too much as opposed to expressing your culture through other ways. I've seen you express it through putting your hair up.
This might be a little too theoretical.
Camille was also singled out and bullied by the other girls in the house because she was perceived as being demanding, single-minded, stubborn, etc. Looking back, it seems to me that she was just confident and self-assured, but she constantly has other people trying to tear her down. The same thing happens to Dominique in cycle 10, and Ebony in cycle 9 is criticized by the judges for not being smiley and bubbly enough. It seems like there is a consistent issue in the show where the confident black girls are called arrogant and snooty, whereas the white girls who act the same way don't face the same ostracization and criticism. The black contestants are also disproportionately criticized for their appearance, specifically their skin. In cycle 1, Ebony is accused of neglecting her skin.
Well, I like my skin.
And with your skin texture, being an African American woman, it should be like butter. At the retouching session, your photo was the hardest that we had to do.
I love the color of her skin, I really do, but up close she just looked so old.
Yaya, what is your biggest insecurity?
My skin.
I found one of the best dermatologists in New York City, and you're going to be seeing her today.
Un petit bouton. Do you have a little skin problem? Just a little?
It's a menstrual breakout.
You have to work on that skin. You drink more water. Water, water, water.
You can get there, but it's going to take some work.
In the photo shoot that I talked about before, where they showed the unretouched and retouched photo, Kelly is absolutely torn to shreds.
Let's see your unretouched shot.
It's like a Hitchcock film. Go back and forth really fast to see what I mean.
What are you feeling right now, Kelly? You look a little...
It's very shocking to see it like this. The people that usually see my skin tell me that I have beautiful skin.
It's so baffling because there's genuinely nothing wrong with her photo. After the competition, Kelly said that she felt like her confidence was completely destroyed and she left ANTM thinking that she was ugly. Black contestants are also critiqued for being too ghetto and are encouraged to tone down their blackness and their personality to become more marketable. One notable instance of this was in cycle 6 with Danielle Evans. Danielle was one of the only dark-skinned winners, but she had to go through this whole de-racialization process in another moment that resurfaced in 2020 with a lot of dialogue and criticism around it. Tyra pressures Danielle to close the gap between her front teeth.
Danielle, you went to the dentist, but you refused to have your gap closed. Do you really think you can have a CoverGirl contract with a gap in your mouth?
Yes, why not?
This is all people see. It's easier to be beautiful CoverGirl. It's not marketable.
Yeah, just a little bit is okay, but I don't want to completely close it.
Danielle likes the gap and she doesn't see anything wrong with it, but she knows that she will be eliminated if she refuses altogether. So she concedes and allows her gap to be partially closed.
You get them teeth done?
All the way, completely closed.
I think all the way.
It's important to note that though they ridicule her for her gap and they say that she'll never make it in the modeling industry, Lauren Hutton was a hugely successful model from the 1970s onwards who had a gap in her smile. And the racial elements of this makeover are all the more apparent when, in cycle 15, Tyra widened the gap of Chelsea, who was a white model, as a part of her makeover. But that's not the only thing that the judges critiqued her for. Danielle is from rural Arkansas, and she got endless criticism on her speech, and the judges kept telling her that she needed to get rid of her accent.
I don't know what to tell you, because where we come from and the neighborhood that we come from, it's ingrained in us, but you have to know how to leave it behind and turn it on for television. I'm not saying to say, CoverGirl Lash Exact is so nice. You could still use Soul. You could still say, and it won't clump. You could still do that, but it's not, but it won't clump. You understand the difference? Danielle, as beautiful as your pictures are, that voice cannot necessarily sell makeup. I've never seen it done in my entire career.
What is Danielle's life as a cover girl? Blah, 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 blah.
Presumably, she will work on that and can work.
And this is a criticism that, to my knowledge, the white contestants weren't subjected to, despite coming from all across America. It seemed like with the white contestants, if they were like super Southern or something, it would kind of be poked fun at and kind of like, haha, cute little country bumpkin.
Hi!
Hi, you are just a country girl. I'm country, but I am high fashion.
But with Danielle, it was like, no, if you continue speaking like this, you will not be a cover girl. It's also strange to consider, given that the judges loved Nena, who was a contestant who grew up in Nigeria.
I feel like the fashion industry is in love with and obsessed with girls from Africa.
This is Eddie Murphy and Iman's baby.
It is coming to America.
Yeah, exactly.
And Tyra repeatedly referred to Nena as like an African queen, and it seemed to identify a marketing potential. But Danielle, on the other hand, an African-American woman, needed to tone down her blackness in order to become marketable. Her accent, in the eyes of Tyra, was a marker of someone untrustworthy and uneducated. And that is literally something that Tyra says, that she's like, oh, you're so beautiful, but when you open your mouth, I don't trust you. And instead of using ANTM to challenge the stereotype of the kind of uneducated or untrustworthy black woman, Tyra reinforces it, and even after Danielle wins, Tyra says, like, we're gonna get you some voice lessons.
And we're gonna get you some voice lessons, girl.
A prime example of the mistreatment of black women on the show can be seen with Tiffany Richardson, from which the iconic "We were rooting for you" speech comes.
I was rooting for you! We were all rooting for you! How dare you!
Tiffany was initially introduced in cycle 3, but at the casting she got into a bar fight after a girl who wasn't a contestant dumped a beer on her. Production allowed her to go back onto the show, provided that she attended anger management. And in cycle 4, she got the reformed ghetto girl edit, which is something that Tyra literally says in a voiceover. But in recent years, Tiffany revealed that she lied in her psych evaluation and in the interviews in order to play into this edit, because she knew that that was how the production were going to frame her. For example, she told a story of her grandmother going without electricity for a week so that she could buy a swimsuit, which wasn't true. And she went into the competition really thinking that it was about modeling, but quickly realized that the reality show was more interested in pointless and often humiliating challenges for the sake of drama.
This is humiliating. More and more each week. I'm not finna break down for you and nobody else. You ain't did me, but bring me here and put me through hell these weeks.
But without the ghetto face.
There are many indications of Southern in your speech. It's going to be a big handicap.
The other girls speak a little more clearly than I do, and I know it, so it's gonna take time.
Put it like this, I don't talk like nobody here.
That's fine. You ain't got to talk like nobody there.
This ain't everybody always talk about the ghetto like that's something bad. Like only bad people come from the ghetto. There are intelligent people in the ghetto. My mom's intelligent, my grandma's very intelligent. I'm ghetto because probably I chose to be ghetto, and that's who I am.
A lot of people's interpretation of being ghetto is something that's not
everybody.
So that's why I don't talk like the other girls who live in Compton. Like,
it's crazy. I'm just ready to go home. I just felt so upset at myself that I've been trying to change all these different things about me, and I'm unhappy. Maybe I can't be this person, this model girl, and maybe that's not who I am.
And she was eventually eliminated in a shocking double elimination. And Tyra absolutely blew up at her when she saw that Tiffany was kind of just like joking and like laughing it off and kind of trying to comfort the other girls instead of breaking down in tears like the other contestant, Rebecca, who was also eliminated. And Tiffany revealed that Tyra said worse things than those that were included in the edit. For example, she said, "You can go home and sleep on your dirty mattress with your baby." Okay. I couldn't even imagine saying something like that to another person. Anyways, it's the only time that we ever see Tyra get to this level of like explosive emotion and anger. And she claims after the fact that it was because she had this maternal feeling towards Tiffany, that she just really, really cared about her. But Tiffany says that she didn't feel any of that maternal care. And I think that's kind of true in general in ANTM. Like, Tyra seems like this kind of fairy godmother, this, maternal presence that's gonna care for and guide the models. But I mean, I think I said this before, but the models revealed that when the cameras were shut off, Tyra just wouldn't talk to them at all, and like just really was cold and just didn't care about them at all, which is obvious in her treatment of them. And the same was true of Asian American contestants who were often subjected to racialized critiques. I don't know why I said critiques like that. Critiques. Gina in cycle 6 was the first Korean American contestant, and she enters the competition saying how she wants to be a part of more Asian representation in media, but her ambition is torn down over the cycle. Because she's introverted and shy, the judges repeatedly criticize her for having no personality, and she's told to kind of come out of her shell more and like be more sexy. She's also relentlessly bullied by Jade, another contestant, and the judge, Janice Dickinson. Janice as a whole was just an absolute like terror to humanity. She was so cruel to everybody. But Jade goes as far as to say that Gina had some insecurity about her race, and they edit Gina as if she's having this whole like identity crisis.
You have some insecurity about your race.
Why do you think I'm insecure?
I
Because I don't know who I am?
And even you said it yourself that you're a little like,
And again, we see the top model storyline of like having to embrace your ethnicity, but there's no real attention given to the context and racial politics.
I'm biracial, for God's sakes. My father is black, white, Indian, and my mother is just this really exotic white woman.
When April of Cycle 2 says that she doesn't identify as Japanese American, just American, Tyra says that the modeling agency will see her as Asian and that she needs to work her exotic angle. April enters the competition saying that she never really thought about her race, but the production makes sure that you don't think of anything but her race when you're watching it because that's all that they talk about.
Oh, come on, what percentage of magazine covers do you see an Asian on? It's rougher being an Asian than a black woman. Tyra has told me right up front, the fashion industry is all about race. Really? So you see Asian girls on the covers of magazines, and I'm not talking about Lucy Liu, she's an actress. So with you entering this fashion world, you would be the underdog.
Before I decided to enter into this industry, I never really thought about my ethnicity.
She says there's less slots for you in any runway show, editorial, fashion magazine than any single other race you can even think of right now.
I'm half Japanese and I'm half Caucasian,
But I've never done anything that made me associate myself as an Asian. April.
I'm getting a sense you've got this negativity towards your ethnicity.
I'm half white and half Asian, okay? Just because I haven't identified myself as an Asian or as a white person, that doesn't mean I'm rejecting it.
April doesn't know what to call herself. So that's what kind of bothers me about her. She clearly looks Asian, and she should be proud of it.
This industry only allows for one person of color in that certain category at a time. So like April, if you make it, you know, you are the top Asian girl at the moment.
I understand that, yes, my look is much more dominantly Asian than white. Therefore, I must market myself that way.
And like Gina, April is criticized for having no personality, and it's something that recurs in relation to East Asian contestants, and it like plays into the stereotype of the quiet, introverted, nerdy Asian person. Again, reinforcing stereotypes instead of trying to contradict them. Typical top model. Tyra's insistence that April embrace her Japanese heritage also plays into a larger social and political context where white Americans, whether they be Italian or Irish, are able to just identify as American. They're not required to put Italian before American. They're not required to put Irish before American. They can if they choose to do so, but they're allowed to just identify as American. But people of color must identify and like be categorized as African American, Asian American, and it should be a person's choice whether they identify as Asian American, Japanese American, or just American. I don't think it's right for another person to criticize another person for their perceived relationship to their heritage, to their race, because it's just a highly personal thing, and that is just nobody else's business. But that doesn't stop Tyra. The ultimate example of ANTM turning race into a commodity is the ethnicity swap shoots. Again, these shoots resurfaced in 2020 and criticized for their use of blackface. Everybody is basically like, did we all forget about this? What the fuck is going on over here? There was not one, but two race swapping photo shoots. The first one was for a Got Milk ad campaign where Cycle 4 contestants were styled as a different race to what they actually were. Yeah. And I researched this because I was like, how did this happen? And Jay Manuel, who I said was the creative director for the first 18 cycles of America's Next Top Model, he said that
the whole race swapping shoot, you know, I was very uncomfortable. My parents grew up in South Africa. They're from South Africa under apartheid. So you've got to understand the kind of the family I grew up in. I'm biracial. It just was very uncomfortable. So I did go to my co-executive producer at the time because it was kind of understood. Like I knew certain things at that point I couldn't even go to Tyra with. And they basically said I had to do that shoot. And I said, well, I'm going to look like this is my idea. And they said, don't worry, we'll cover you in the edit. You won't look bad.
Tyra and Ken Mock, the executive producers, were basically in control of everything, and what they said goes, and they wanted to do a race swapping photo shoot. So they did a race swapping photo shoot. It was the early 2000s, and it's easy to say that it was a completely different time, blah, blah, blah. But like it wasn't. It wasn't okay back then. It's still not okay now. But that didn't stop ANTM doing it a second time. In cycle 13, there was a biracial photo shoot where contestants were given like 2 ethnicities to embody. And so obviously their features and their skin was changed according to what they were assigned. And in relation to the photo shoot, Tyra said, "I'm sorry to anybody that watched Top Model and was offended by the pictures because they didn't understand the real story behind them. Or even if you did see the whole episode and you were still offended, I truly apologize because that was not my intention. My intention is to spread beauty and break down barriers." Well, as we've discussed, that was not her intention with the show, or else you would not have done the things that you have done. But also, it's so funny that it's like,
sorry that you were offended. You didn't like it? Oh, that sucks. I guess you like didn't get the message. Oh, you did get the message? Sucks that you were offended.
What a crazy reaction. Camera died again. Really been talking for a while. There's also so much Orientalism and exoticization of non-Western countries, both when they go abroad and when they're doing photo shoots in America, which again highlight the show's commercialization of race and lack of interest in or care for other races or cultures. One photo shoot had the girls pose as their like future or dream careers, and Nena said that she wanted to do drug research in Africa. And you know, instead of styling her in say a lab coat or as a doctor in a lab, how do you think they styled her? Yeah, in cheetah print, and they styled the set as a savanna, as if scientists in Africa are just like doing chemistry experiments in the middle of the Sahara and not like in a building. It's such a weird racial othering of Africans, and like it plays into the myth of African people being somehow like backward, primitive, animalistic, etc. Ultimately, ANTM tells us what bodies are and are not valuable, who is and who is not beautiful, and oftentimes this distinction occurs along the lines of race and weight. You can be curvy but not too curvy, black but not too black, exotic but not ethnic. There's constantly parameters put on what beauty is acceptable and marketable. And it's far from sticking to Tyra's proclaimed aim to expand the definition of beauty in the fashion industry. And instead of showcasing a range of diverse beauty, ANTM just reinforces the very rigid standards that it claims to push back against. We've covered a lot of negatives, but there are some positives that came from ANTM. It included a lot of queer people, both as contestants, like Kim, who is a lesbian, Isis, who is transgender, Michelle, who's bisexual. Those are just a few. But it also included a lot of queer people as a part of the production and judges. The aforementioned Jay Alexander, runway coach diva extraordinaire, was always embroiled with fun camp activities. Like Miss J would come to the house dressed as the evil queen from Snow White. There was also inclusion of other queer personalities like Bunny Ninja, who was famous for voguing. Then there was so much campiness around like the photo shoots and the teaches and the introductions. Like one of them showed them in space with Tyra and the Jays like beaming in and out from a spaceship. It was just embroiled in camp. And Tyra herself, of course, was always camp. She was always doing crazy things. She's a bit of a meme queen before memes were like even a thing. And I think a lot of people have pointed out that having such kind of camp and queerness on mainstream TV actually paved the way for a lot of other shows, the most popular and obvious one being RuPaul's Drag Race.
I'm big with teens, girls, lesbians, the mentally ill, the very sad.
Speaking of queerness, happy Pride Month, everyone. I mean, I think a main positive of ANTM was that it was just fun to watch. It was just so campy, and like I loved the photo shoots. I loved the challenges. Well, actually, no, some of the challenges were boring. There was actually so much creativity and so many cool like photos and runways produced from ANTM. It was really a mixed bag, and a lot of it was just so like negative and damaging. And like obviously, I'm not going to tell you what to watch. I'm not going to tell you what to think. I'm just telling you what I think. And it's perfectly fine to continue watching ANTM. I still like watching ANTM, even though I know all these things and that I think all these things. Jesus, I can't get a word out. Yeah, I think it's time we end the video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in my next video. Do you know what has kept going around in my head lately? While I've been like writing and doing this, I keep for some reason thinking that the America's Next Top Model theme tune is to the tune of the theme for American Dragon Jake Long. That was like American Dragon. I keep thinking it's like America's Next Top Model. It's absolutely not. Okay, bye.